Hello everyone! Today I'd like to tell you about the last movies and books I read recently and which were remarkable for me on my taste. Now I try to speak using silent voice instead of whisper because it seems to me that probably it's quite difficult for you to understand me, and because of the accent, or sometimes I build sentences like in Russian language or make intonations like in Russian language, and I'm afraid that when I'm speaking using whisper it becomes even more difficult. So I try to speak using just silent voice, and I hope that that will be better and easier for you. So let me know if it's so or not, or if you don't really care. First of all, I'd like to tell that this week I was in the cinema the first time during the last 4 years, I guess. Before, I loved going to the cinema. I enjoyed it more than the theater, for example, more than the concert or something. But in the pandemic period, I missed the cinema. But when I went in the cinema in the first time after maybe a year gap because of the pandemic, I understood that I don't like sitting in the cinema, and it was so comfortable to watch movies at home, because in the cinema, I don't know, I get very tired because of sitting so long in one pose, and yeah, that's difficult for me. And you can't stop the movie and go, I don't know, to the toilet to get something to eat and all that stuff. So, but I decided to go to the cinema this week because I really wanted to watch a movie named Substance. I really love horrors and thrillers, and I watch different bloggers who observe horrors, and the one who is my favorite, he's a Russian-speaking blogger. Russian-speaking blogger, sorry. He said that this is the best movie of the year, and I was so, how do I say it? I was waiting for this movie, and I heard about it from different people, and I actually liked it. A few days passed, and I can say that I wouldn't recommend it to everyone because it's actually bloody. It's a body horror, and I don't really like body horrors, but this one was interesting because of the idea, because it was filmed in some unusual way and the plot was unpredictable. It was something new, at least, so that was good. But the movie is quite bloody, quite uncomfortable, and if you don't like such kind of movies, I don't recommend you to watch it. But if you're okay with horror, it's not scary, by the way. It's not scary at all. There are no screamers or anything like this, so it's just uncomfortable. And there are some, for example, if you can't see injections in the movies, or blood, or something when people do something with the skin, some organs. So I'd better don't recommend you to watch it. But if you're okay with that, then you can try, because the plot is interesting, and I don't regret that I watched it in the cinema, because it was like some kind of art house or performance, mostly in the end of the movie. So it was interesting to watch it in the cinema, and it's much better than if I did it at home. So I'm happy that I decided to go in the cinema and watch it there, and decided not to wait until I'm able to watch it at home like I wanted to do first. So that's the last movie I watched. I'd like to tell you more about some various genres of movies, but as I told, I love horrors, and maybe, I don't know, to some Halloween it will be okay to tell you about some kind of this. For example, recently I also watched Skeleton Key. I watched it when I was a kid. I was maybe 9 years old, and I loved it then. And then I forgot about this movie, actually, but I remember that it was good. And this year I watched it the second time, and it's still good. I loved it. I love the plot. It's unusual. I love the idea. I think tell you it's not such a spoiler. The movie contains a very great idea that if you believe in something, it works on you, and if you don't, it can't hurt you or it can't help you. So it's just a matter of your belief in something, and I love this idea because it's something about psychology too, because I think that it works like that. And I love that the plot was the movie was filmed, I don't know where it was filmed, but in the plot it was New Orleans, Louisiana, and it's good to see such kind of place because I never seen movies filmed there or telling about this place before. I loved that it showed something about culture of hoodoo, like voodoo but hoodoo, so about this magic which, as I understood, is really exists. So that's interesting. That was interesting, and I love to know something new from movies. So I love this movie too, this horror, and I would recommend it too if you haven't watched it. But if you love horrors, I'm sure that you did because it's quite popular. So I think that notice was the great years for horrors, and now it's quite a rare thing to find good horror, so I'm happy that Substance was good actually. Also from the last ones I loved Bo is Afraid with Joaquin Phoenix. I think that also it's something about a little bit art house and something about performance. It's quite unusual, and for me, I'm a person who watched many different movies. For me it's very good, but I can't predict the plot. I really hate movies where you start watching and you understand what's gonna happen next and what's gonna be in the end. That's terrible for me. I hate it. For example, some typical romantic comedies I hate it because I always know what happens then and what will be in the end. Or some typical comedies. I actually love comedies, but there are not so much which I can see that they are really good and really funny, and so Bo is Afraid is about this, so I couldn't predict what gonna happen because that was crazy, and but it was really interesting, and the actor play was good, and I felt really sorry. I wanted to actually Joaquin Phoenix, I think he deserves Oscar for this role. I really think like this because he was good. Actually, he is good. He's a good actor, and I was sorry that this movie didn't get anything, at least about, I don't know, not decorations, but style of the film. I don't know how to call it. So the visual effects of the film, they were quite interesting. So again, if you love such kind of movies like like I mentioned, you can try to watch it. The next movie is Hunt with Mads Mikkelsen, and it's a Denmark movie. Again, I love the plot. It was unusual. It was about the teacher from kindergarten who was a man, and he was accused by one little girl in kindergarten in harassment, but she just like joked, but everyone believed in that, and they didn't believe that that wasn't the truth, and that actually destroyed his life. So I retold you the plot, but not all the plot actually. I mean, there were, yeah, that's the plot, but there are some other things you have to watch there. So if you want, if you like such kind of plot, you also can try it. It was really interesting. I love Mads Mikkelsen, and the movie is good itself. So if you want to watch something like this, I recommend it to you. Also, one more film is Banshee of Inisherin. I hope that I pronounced it correct because it's an Irish movie with Colin Farrell. Colin Farrell and the second actor, I forgot his name, so they're Irish. This movie is, I don't know, it's more like a drama, and it's a bit strange, but I like such kind of movies, sorry. But it's also quite interesting. It's about two friends in a small village, and one just stopped talking to the other. He said that he got tired of their friendship, and I actually read after that the meaning of the movie about, I don't know actually is it true or not, but the movie is about history of Ireland showed, which is shown in these relationships of two friends and showing people in their village. So that was interesting again. If you want to watch something unusual, you can. But this is not such a funny movie, but not so. I wouldn't say that it's so hard or something like that. Just for me, it was interesting and unusual. So, talking about something more positive, I don't know, from cartoons, I watched the second part of Inside Out and I loved it. Actually, I didn't expect a lot because, second part, they are always worse. Maybe not with Shrek, but all the other. But this one was good, just good. It was interesting and I was disappointed. So I heard some bad reviews, but I don't agree. I would recommend it to watch. So if you love the first part and for some reason you haven't watched the second, you should do this. That's a good movie for one evening and then you can forget about it actually. Also recently I watched a cartoon. It was called Wish Dragon. It is Chinese and American, so something like this. And the plot is in China, so the main character lives in China, everything is in China. And again, that was interesting to see something new, not USA or something else, Chinese culture maybe a little bit. I can't say that this cartoon is something really special, but there were some good things there, some good points, some funny points, and if you want to watch something new, you can try. I tried to remember some comedy to say about something positive, and I remember just one. I watched it when I was a kid, and I remember just some I don't know, some shoots from there, and I really wanted to find it. I couldn't find it for many years, and finally I did. That's the French movie. I couldn't find how it calls in English translation. I mean, in English cinematograph. In French, it's called. I wrote it down. Mauvais Esprit. Mauvais Esprit. That's translated in English like evil spirit, and in Russian it's translated in incorrect way. I understood because it was translated like bad mood, and I didn't I couldn't understand why bad mood. It's about again, the plot sounds actually like a horror, but it's a comedy. So the main character, he was hit by car to death, and he and the man who actually killed him accidentally, he didn't want this, and that actually wasn't his fault, but the wife of his man was pregnant and she born a baby, and the man who was hit to the death and who actually died, he was this baby. So he remembered everything. He couldn't speak as he was a usual kid, but in his mind he was this man, and he understood that he is in family of his killer, his murder, and he wanted to revenge and commit a suicide or something like this, but he was a baby and he couldn't. He tried to do his best being a baby, so that's a comedy, but again, it sounds like a horror, but it's okay to watch for one evening. I know it has got very bad marks on IMDb or on some Russian like IMDb websites, but I don't know, I love that. I'm happy that I found it. But of course, every time when I watch some comedies from Notice, I feel I find when I hear some jokes, I can count how many jokes are there for which nowadays the authors would be cancelled in nowadays world, in Western world exactly world. But again, it's old, so for that time that was okay. So about movies, that's it. And about books, I watched the movie Into the Wild. I think you know this. I know that it's quite popular in USA. And I read the book Into the Wild about Chris McCandless, who died in Alaska who traveled and died in Alaska. And recently I watched this movie the second time, and then I read that there is a book by his sister, Karen McCandless, and she wrote about their family, and she wrote why actually he did it, why he dropped everything, dropped their family, his family, and just gone without money, without everything, and wanted to stay in Alaska alone in the forest. And actually their family was very abusive and very unhealthy, about talking about relationships, and that was very interesting. That was very interesting to read about such kind of family. And he died actually, but his sister, she lived, and she tried to do something with that, with their relationship, and with her brother's death, and all that stuff. She tried to make something with her life and understand all these things about her brother, about her family, and that was interesting. If you know the movie Into the Wild and the book, you can try this one too. And also I read the book which is called Dario the Great. Dario the Great is Not Okay. That's a book for teenagers, I guess. There were two parts. Dario the Great is Not Okay and Dario the Great Deserves Better. And I read both of them. And from the one hand, I loved these books. They were entertaining. They are books for teenagers, I guess. But I'm adult and I was okay with that. And on the other hand, I have many questions to the plot, to the logic of the main character, because sometimes I asked, does he has logic actually, or not? Does he has, can I say like this? Does he have logic? Does he have logic? Or some dialogues, they were like in some teach book, they seemed so unnatural, and I don't know. But for some reason I loved this book. I read it in original, in English, and it was good for me to read as foreigner, because there were a lot of slang words that was very useful for me. And it was easy to read because that's a book for teenagers, and it was quite light. If you don't want to push on your brain, you can try to read it if you're okay with teenager books, if you're okay with the book about a gay boy. But in the first part, actually, you almost can't feel it, maybe just a little bit. In the second part, yeah. And actually, that's the only reason why I decided to record this video in English, because I'm afraid to talk about this in Russian, because in Russia it's forbidden to make a gay propaganda, so I was afraid. But I hope that like that it will be okay. And that's it actually. About the series, I watched Ripley, I loved it. Not everything, but 95% I loved, so I would recommend it. That was interesting again. I watched the movie, which is old, which is with Matt Damon, but this one was good. That was a different view on this story, and that was interesting, and there was something new. And I watched a Russian series, but I don't know if you can watch it or not, because I'm not sure that there are subtitles. It's called Slovo Patsana, Word of Boy. I don't know if I can translate it like that, but okay, let it be Word of Boy. And it was better. I loved it better than Ripley. Ripley is good, but this one is super good. And I wish you could watch it. It's about Soviet Union in 80s, about teenage crime. And I don't like such kind of plot, but this one was quite good. Everyone loved it in Russia, really. If you want to see how people lived that time, that showed it quite good. So that's it. I hope that you loved this video. Have a nice day, and thank you for watching. Goodbye.